All right.
Aloha kako. Welcome to tonight's show of Kanakanology. Tonight, we're so happy to have Lanakila with us. Lanakila has been a mover and shaker. He has been active in Mauna issues and also runs a community, Hawaiian Culture Community Center in Honoka'a. And so we're looking forward to tonight. Mahalo for joining us tonight, Lanakila. We're so looking forward to getting to know about your journey, about the things that have happened along your life that have brought you up to this point and where you'd like to go from here. So mahalo for joining us.
Oh,
Aloha.
having me. Aloha, no. So, Neki aloha no ya oko, o wau o Joshua Lanakila o ka aina I ka pona Mangauil. No hono ka amayau, no mauna aua kia ko umauna, o waipi o ko uawawa, o ke one ko kahakai, no hilawe ko Hawaii. It has been a great honor to be, how would you say, I guess kind of put into this kuleana of alakai for our communities nowadays. Well, put there, and I say put there because I don't think I ever like worked toward trying to be that, but realize the kuleana that comes with Ike, yeah. When you what is that old saying? People say ignorance is bliss, yeah. But when you learn, then you awamo kuleana. And it's an honor to serve, as my kumus would say. Yeah, so how's it, everybody? So I'm born and raised Honoka'a town. Actually, and I grew up just Mauka, Honoka'a town in Ahualoa area. I am the son of Stephen Kokua Mangauil of Kailua Kona and Maureen Louise McGraw from Colorado. I'm a Hapa boy. My tutu on my dad's side is Elsikiala Kaikulia Benjamin, the Benjamin Ohana from Kailua Kona. And my papa was Bonifacio Anastasio Mangauil. He came from the Philippines long ago, but pretty much grew up and lived in Kona. My mama's side, my grandmother is Irene Carter, and Edward McGraw is my grandfather. My mama moved here to the islands back in the 70s where she met my dad. So I'm Hapa on that. So I'm Hawaiian, Filipino, Irish, Scottish in my heritage. And, you know, it's been an interesting thing growing up in a small sugar plantation town in a Hapa family. But, you know, Waipio is my stomping grounds. I just want to probably bring us to that. So I live up Mauka Fonaka in the forests, down the northern slope of Mauna Kea, and spent most of my days either running up Mauka, hunting in the forests and stuff, or down in Waipio. And grew up a lot down in the valley. Some of my first kumu down there was like Uncle Kia Franda, Auntie Ku, Uncle Nale Kahakalau, Tapahio Ohana, and Escron Ohana, and many. And so I was, though I didn't have Ohana to say down there, you know, I have extended Ohana and was just always there to kokua and always learning. I was super, super blessed in I think I was like, maybe like 4th grade when I was sent down to the valley on this summer camp. So a little bit different than my normal, just go down Holo Holo and go. But I was actually taken to a summer camp down there called Kukulukumuhana, which was a Kukulukumuhana. Those are the ones. Yeah, some of you guys know that. Yes. So Kukulukumuhana, awesome. Was the foundations of Hawaiian education was started down there in the valley. It was kicked off by, you know, the Kanaheles, Tipele from Ka'u, Uncle Kia, the Kahakalaus, these strong Kanaka at their time that got together and said, we got to create some place for our kids. So I was lucky during that time. My mom, you know, my mom and dad, they separated when I was really young, and I wasn't with my dad as much. And I can still remember my mom telling me at one point, like, you know, you are Hawaiian, even though she's not. She's like, you're Hawaiian, but I can't teach you that. So I guess I can do is get you to places and to people who can. And so
Mhm.
I'm sure she had other motives because it was like a whole month in YPO. So other motives to drop us off and go.
No, but that's so true, Lanakila, because
Yeah.
I'm Haole and I'm raising Hawaiian children. And it's so important to me that, that I have to put them with other people so that they have that true, because no matter what I do or how I live, it's not the same, yeah. And to have that real, authentic experience to develop their identity. That's
I
mean.
and it's a blessing like that to have community, and that's really Hawaiian style too. Not too often it was only completely up to the biological parents to raise their child. That's not really
Mm.
Hawaiian. Hawaiian was everybody. That's why we have no word in our language for biological mother and father. Everybody, the community is
Mhm.
that. So so I have like all these aunties and uncles that I wouldn't know what to call them other than that, and Kupuna of the Valley especially too, where that's the place that really gave me that my set the foundation for me as an
Mhm.
and gave me a deeper understanding to uh, the identity of what it is to be Kanaka. Um, I grew up working the lo'i and the kalo, and going fishing and going prawning and everything in the valley. And yeah, that's kind of my humble upbringings there, and I'm super super mahalo for that. The kukuluku mohana, was another level too. It wasn't even just it took even the experiences of going to the rivers and everything, and going fishing, going surfing, going working in the lo'i to another level, because what our kumus brought to us was another lens to look at all this activity. So we weren't just going, oh, we just go up the cliff over here. We can go up Pua'ahuku. We know the
Mhm.
name, the
Mhm.
ino of this place.
Mhm.
Oh, let's go get some more of the coconut. No, we can say, no, the new, get the new, and it enriched everything to know that we just not going to just go hop over to the mainstream. We're going to go to Wailoa, to
Mhm.
hear the names again. And there was a time it was I kick myself in the butt sometimes where I forget some of the names, but I remember Uncle Kia teaching us the name of every single crevice in the wall has a name. Yeah. And I used to be able to recite all of them in the Pule. So I gotta go find that book. But I believe the chant that would name every single one. But to have that level of that's what Kukulu did. It gave us another layer of experience, and wasn't just going and pulling tarot. It
It was
was
the pilina. It was developing a real serious
yeah,
pilina.
yeah. We pili with haloa. We pili with the idea of generational teachings and thinking of our world generationally, generations that we descend from, where we are here, and the
Mhm.
generations to come, and just putting us in that rhythm. And I remember kind of even like before Kukulu was just white people, was just for us Hamakua people, was like that awesome place just for go. It was our getaway. We could get away from the hustle and bustle, get down to the valley. And it was really empowering when I remember coming into the consciousness of learning of how rich white people really was, and even how what a bustling place white people was. Some of the early ship logs estimated nearly 40,000 people living in the valley.
Yeah.
And so,
Mhm.
I mean, that
Mhm.
place was, as much as people go there now and we think it's like a wild place, that place is like, that was a Mecca. That was like the Honolulu of its days. That was where thousands of people was able to not just live or survive, but thrive.
It was
So
like the bread basket kind of, yeah, to put it in the Western context, yeah.
right. Aina Puna Heleona Ali was where it was like the favorite gathering place of the chiefs, because it was so bountiful. Yeah. And so it made me just look over. And I remember as I got a little older, just starting to look over now, looking at what I'm seeing in my day and age, and then hearing these mo'olelo, it, something was missing. Like, what happened then? Because now we look at this place and it's just overgrowth, and rock walls in the bushes, and truck tourists all over the place, and a few lo'i here and there, and weeds all over. What happened? What happened
Mhm.
to our people? What happened to that glorious image that is described not only in our stories but in the ship logs themselves from the first po'ehaole that came, and how they wrote about being absolutely blown away by what they were witnessing. And now it's like, hmm. But that lens for me carried out and beyond even white people. To learn more Mo'olelo and hear the stories of these of our Aina and our people, and then comparing and contrasting of what we had to where we are today. Looking at our Aina the same way. So when I hear Mo'olelo of Mauna Kea, and we learn, I saw, I guess from timeline. So my first year in Kukulu was like 5th grade, and I only had a few years of that. And my sister, a few years into me going there, Kukulu Kumuhana took another step. And led by Auntie Kuka Hakalau, I remember her talking about this. She spoke of like her observation, especially of a lot of us Kanaka kids, Hawaiian kids, and how, we were like down in the valley. Like we always had like a month doing all this stuff, learning all these things, and then our ho'ike, our parents, the community would come down, and we would present, we would share, we would take them and teach all of our ohana, all these things that we learned, and it was like amazing stuff. And yet, like myself, I'll just share. So I was in the regular school. I was borderline SPED. I was a SPED student. I'm borderline special education, and just right on the ADHD, all the different brands they like to slap on us if we don't fit their box. Yeah, I was all of that too. And yet, you put me in that kind of environment, and I was excelling. And I remember Auntie Ku's words. She was saying that one day, describing it like, if we see a healthy environment where our children thrive, why then should we force them into the belly of the beasts? I remember those words, and I was like, wow. And that was the words that always echo with me. As then their next step was to create the very first Native Hawaiian public charter school. Their first step was to create, they created the Hawaiian Academy, which was a school within a school at Honoka'a High School. And my sister got to jump into that. She was older than me, and so she was in that. And then when I got to high school, they left. Kanakaina opened up to a whole nother level, and that's when Kanakaina Hawaiian Academy became Kanakaina First Native Hawaiian Public Charter School right here in Waimea. And that opened up in year 2000, and that's when I left my hometown of Honoka'a to go to school at Kanakaina. So was willing to be that guinea pig, in the first couple of years, the kids that take the plunge and try something new. And so I was there in the early days of Kanu. This it was fun. It was something else, a whole other experience. Our campus was Quonset huts and tents. We had a campus down Kauai High as well too, and that was like on the old abandoned not abandoned, but the old movie place that there was some movie they were filming down there, and they built this place. Well, we took that place.
What is that? The Water World.
Oh well, no, it's something else. It's that building that sits on 4 flats. I forget, there was some show they was making, but anyway, I think like YMCA took it on and a few other organizations, but Kanu made it a Kauai High campus. And I was actually lucky. That was the campus I went to. So we went to school down there, and we had to set up our school, bring out our tables and chairs, and we would learn. We would still be anchored or hitting all of the requirements, DOE requirements, and your basic reading, writing, arithmetic. But the unique thing that Kanu did was that they based all of that curriculum or all of those requirements within a curriculum that grounded us into who we are as Hawaiians, that grounded us into understanding our own natural environment. So I remember, someone stepped on the baby. Sorry, baby, going. But I remember when I was some of the assignments we would have at Kanu that were just parallel things. So I remember we're right there at Kauai High Landing. We're right in the shadow of Pu'ukohola, the Temple of State. And so when we talk about Hawaiian Kingdom, it started right here in Kauai High at that. And we every day we actually began our morning piko at the beach of Kikiakoi or Pelikane beach. That's where we started our days. And to learn the history of this place was really neat. One of my high school teacher was Kumune Koanakalea, now Kuvalo Anakalea. And what was really awesome about how a lot of the assignments that she gave is as we learned our history, we paralleled with world history as well. So we knew what was happening in the world based on the context of what was happening in our own home. Yeah.
Wow.
So we knew what was happening in other places because, so at the same time that Lono Ikamakahiki, was pushing across and was battling up here on the hills of Hoku'ula and Waimea, the same time as that was happening, that was like the Mongolian movement up in Asia. So I mean, parallel what's happening in the world. We knew where Kamehameha was making his movements down here. Well, simultaneously on the continent, on the was now the U.S. What was happening there? So it was empowering in that to be grounded in our own history, yeah, and then be able to connect to the rest of the world. And I find it very interesting to be able to understand and connect with the history of the world in another level because I have my own history. I have my history, and that's and the history of my place right here, that I can connect and understand the history of others. So it was super empowering, and that's where I'm super blessed and lucky, I think, to have been able to be part of the renaissance of Hawaiian education.
Right. I have a question, Lanakila,
Yeah.
because I'm a kumu in the belly of the beast at Pahoa High and Intermediate, my alma mater. And so this is something we're trying to address. Yeah. The beast. And what would you, I'm just curious, in that difference from going from the Honaka'a school to going into the Kanuoku'aina environment, how did it change how you perceived yourself?
And I think one was, I think Kanu exposed us to such a wider lens of possibilities. We weren't narrowed down to just, go to the next college fair and find out what you're going to do with your life. It gave us another lens to expand. And I think a grounding thing that Kanu taught me that I think has really set the precedence in my life to do the kind of work that I do was kind of a sense of not looking at our life at what do you want to do with your life as just like as if you are your own, nothing else matters, just your own personal desires. And we were really grounded of the Hawaiian essence on idea of ohana and community. So it was about, we really took time to learn what was happening in our own communities. And then that drove myself and my na'au, and we didn't just learn about issues. We always talked about, and we actually participated in addressing issues. Ideas are like, how can we fix this then? We talked about, I remember at one point acknowledging and looking about erasure of our culture. And one topic of that with our Kauai High site, we looked at down at the beach. Everyone knows Spencer Beach Park. Yeah. But what is the real name of that place? Because we know our kupuna wasn't, our Kamehameha wasn't going down Ehele Ike Kaima Spencer Beach Park. Yeah. So in learning about that, we talked with the kupuna of the area, and we found the name of that area, the traditional name of that place was Ohaiula. Yeah. And in that too, we also took the time to learn the history. Who is the Spencer? Because I had no idea who Spencer was, but the Spencer is referring to is a big,
exactly.
For the moment, I forgot his name, but he was a judge here in Waimea. And of course, the Spencer Ohana is a big family here in Waimea. And so the park was dedicated to, oh gosh, it's kicking me now in the butt. I forgot his first name, but that particular the judge who was the Spencer that this park was dedicated to. And so we talked about that. It's like, okay, well, we don't mean in any way, we don't want to take away from honoring this ohana and this person. At the same time, we don't want to lose our place names. And so we learned through the process, and we engaged with the Hawaiian Civic Club, and we learned how to draft our proposal. And we actually did this whole thing in our Kauai High site group, and it went all the way up through the civic clubs, and they they voted to help push to get that area renamed, and we have a new sign now. When you pull down over there, it says Spencer Beach Park at Ohaiula Beach. So there, we malama the ohana and the stories to be told, and we still preserve our place names. So, and that's just one small example about how looking at issues that's happening around us, and then thinking about what we do to fix it, or instead of just being stuck in the misery of the sadness of another problem and just what do we gonna do about it? Yeah, that was an encouraging thing that I think kind of set me on a path of, okay, yes, we know the history of what happened, but I'm not living in that time. My kupuna lived through that. We are now on this much far from the direct action. We're in our own issue right now. That sometimes is in many ways might be connected through that. Yeah. But do we want to? We talk a lot about. I think right now it's a big hot topic words about generational trauma. Yeah. Well, at what point are we going to break that trauma? What point are we going to stand up and say, am not going to allow this trauma to pass on to my keiki. I need to stop this. So it's a little bit of like, we just gotta, how do you say it? I don't want to just say like, suck it up. No, it's not about suck it up. It's about, let's get to work on changes. We need to break these cycles. We need to break these unhealthy cycles.
Like, I don't chew it up or something.
Yeah, I don't want my children and my children to be still, dealing with generational trauma. It's like, well, we got to mend it. We got to ho'opono this, yeah? And and sometimes that trauma, after so long, it's actually, in some cases, we realize it's not always by our occupiers anymore. Sometimes it's become held within our own ohana that we are just perpetuating these unhealthy practices. And we have to just, we got to take responsibility, yeah? We got to call out the issues that are from the outside that are coming in. We got to continue to pali that, and the best way to pali that is ho'oi kaika from within ourselves and within our own ohana and our communities. That's how we help to pali it from that. But what if we are the source of that trauma within our families? We got to ho'opono that, yeah. Or else, how are we going to take on these big powers out there when we go home and we ripping each other apart? We have. Forget about trying to get back a nation and doing all that. If we are not even good with our friends and our neighbors and our own family, yeah, we got to make pono with ourselves and our own environment, and we got to be the best way is that we establish firm foundations, firm practices within ourselves, within our communities, so that we build that. I don't want to sound like I'm preachy or everything, but that's kind of like. That Ike that my kumus would always kind of flip it back on it. Whenever we had one issue we want to complain about, they're like, so what? Okay, what are we going to do about it? Yeah, there was a process of, well, sometimes create a process. Don't just call out issues and namu. Mahea kahana. We got to do that work. So. Yeah, that's a solid foundational thing that I think Kanu really instilled into me, that I don't think I would have got that in a regular DOE. And I think in some cases too, the regular DOE would not have ever allowed us to learn about what was happening around us. We wouldn't be looking at the issues of our own community and our own environment. We'd be learning about everything through some book. And it seemed, and being so, for me, that world is just distracting us and pulling us away from looking at what's right around us. So in some cases too, we still face that. That's the biggest, I would say, one of the biggest weapons of our occupiers is distracting us with nonsense, putting all these other things in front of us. I always say our kupuna in some of our mele, aole makoa e mina mina. Don't be concerned with going for the big heaps of money. I would say you can even just look at the line. Don't be concerned with all these petty things. I would say we tend to get stuck on a lot of petty stuff sometimes. It's like, yeah, we'll be bickering about all this little stuff, and we get the big fish. Actually, the big fish is still just laughing at us because we're fighting over the crumbs. Yeah. Okay, so I don't want to get preachy.
Right.
Um, yeah, but so I
Okay,
graduated from Kanu.
so what you did after high school?
Yeah, so right after I
So
graduated, I
she's
graduated in '04. And interesting enough, I went directly and became a teacher. I actually
mhm.
came right back around and began teaching back at Kanakaina. It's kind of like as a hiapo helping out with the elementary. I did go to college for myself. Now, I'm not encouraging or never mind. I'm just saying for myself, I did go to college and I didn't jive with it, with that world and that community. Um, um, of having chasing the pala pala and all this kind of stuff, and it was other things too. The social world of the college wasn't healthy for me too. So I went to college for one semester and I left and just became a teacher. So I actually came back home to my hometown of Honoka'a, and at 19 years old, I started teaching at Honoka'a Elementary School. Actually, through the Hawaiian Department of Education's Kupuna, Ike Hawaii Kupuna Makua program. I came right
hi.
back to my old elementary school, and I started teaching. I taught kindergarten through 6th grade. And it was the weirdest thing to be teaching alongside my old teachers.
Yeah, yeah.
So
No, I still do that. I'm like, hi, mister, still yet. I'm like pushing 40.
yeah, yeah. And so I taught for over a decade at Honoka'a. I taught I expanded even from pre-K to 12th grade. Just kind of ran all the Hawaiian studies in Ike Hawaii and helped with the Hawaiian language at the high school and intermediates as well. And it was super empowering for me to be able to come back to my hometown. But I will say there's something about Hamakua and Honoka'a. If you look back in Hawaii history in the past 100 years or so, or less than that, a lot of big things actually took place and kind of got its foot in and activated from our moku. But something for myself, being a young person growing up in Honoka'a and Hamakua, things get started and then they always leave, and our poor community gets left behind. So like I shared, so even Kanakaina and the charter school movement began in our backyard in Waipi'o Valley, Hamakua, in Honoka'a High School, and then it had to leave. It went to Waimea. Yeah. And trust, Waimea sucks everything away from us. It's like a big current that pulls everything to Waimea, and just get all the money in Waimea, and Honoka'a always get left behind. A fun, empowering story. I remember hearing Uncle, what inspired the whole activation to build a voyaging canoe was the illustrations and the work of Herb Kane. And everyone was saying how Uncle Herb Kane was inspired from his time in Waipi'o Valley. Is what got him to start doing that, all the historical works that he does, and the va'a. And that's what sparked the idea coming from there to build a va'a. And the Nakalai Va'a world, when the Nakalai Va'a and Makali'i began, the very first student sailing programs, Honoka'a. Yeah. Yeah. Some of all those first sailor guys, Uncle Shorty, Berto, man, they all Honoka'a guys. Honoka'a graduates. Huh? But
Right.
you start and you go. So I remember getting out of high school and thinking, I want to go back home and try and pull this mana back our way, get it back to our little community. And so I did. I rooted myself back at home in Honoka'a, and I just did that as much as I can, tried to feed. And it began to bloom just by sharing and taking it to another level. So I recognized right at the bat, and I had to correct my students to know I'm not kupuna. Please, I was only 19. They were like, Makua, Makua. And they're like, Makua Lanakila, are you like 30? I was like, oh my God, I'm only 19. But so but it was super, super empowering though, just to in my years there developing that, and also because realizing how much our keiki are really hungry to learn even more than what the DOE system kind of gives them when it comes to Ike Hawaii, and they're totally capable of taking on a lot more.
They thrive. They
And they
thrive.
thrive. I mean, I had so many kids that would come and just hang out with me just because I was opening up other realms. Even other kids, like I had a number of different like Marshallese and Micronesian kids. They were so drawn because they could relate to this. They could relate to this Ika Hawaii because we are Ohana. We are the people of the Pacific. You know, we are the ocean people. And this was, they could recognize this. And the pule or the chants and the hula integrated and all these things, but not just dancing. Be man in that. I didn't do Mayday. I don't do that. Was all ho'ike. You know, we presented very strongly what the keiki had been learning about on an authentic presentation of what they had been learning about. So Honaka for a little while, our ho'ike kind of was dubbed the mini Mary Monarch because we went all out. And my big thing too was people say, "Oh, the kids can't do that." It's like, watch, and we done. My kids are rock the house, you know, because you just gotta feed them. You gotta give them that, and you gotta give them a lot of aloha and a lot of discipline. And I am a student of like Uncle Kia Franda. Yeah, so like I have his eye. I've been told I have his Uncle Kia's eye sometimes. It's like, and that eye can pierce across the playground, and everybody like, oh, Mako looking at you, you're doing something wrong. Yeah, but as much as we honor them, we love them at the same time, and that's where I remember some of the teachers would be like, I don't get it, we can hear you rah, on top of them, but at the same time I gotta scold them because they are insistent of running out of line to come give you a hug. It's like, well, because I love them just as much as I discipline them, because we're responsible for the whole well-being of a child. Yeah. Not just making sure the reading, writing, and arithmetic is on. We want to make sure that they are good, that they feel safe, that they feel loved, that they feel cared for. We have to malama our keiki. That kind of encouraged me or opened up other arenas. I also began working at the youth Honaka Youth Center, and so I had the kids all day long, and then I had them right after school all the way till sunset. So I love my kids, and and with the youth center gave us some unique opportunities where a lot of this Ike Hawaii I was sharing with the kids. My big thing too, on a big assignment for all my kids, especially when we did Mo'olelo, was now your homework is to go ha'ika Mo'olelo. Go tell the story to your parents. Go tell them to somebody. And it was so cool how some kids would come back and they're like, oh, my mom said that she remembers that story when she was little, and other little stories. And some parents I'd bump into at the store, and they'd be, hey, you was my boy was telling me this story you told them about, I think I remember something about that. And it was interesting seeing how the whole community began to learn through the learning of their children. Yeah. And a lot of families started asking, they wanted to learn. So it opened me up to doing a bunch of community classes as well. And it was just like, okay, let's do this. So I had kids all day long, high school, after school, and then their parents came in in the evening. And just tried as much as possible just to share and encourage and help to spark. Yeah, just spark the interest, get people encouraged and intrigued, and hanai and feed them. So was super powerful, and I've done that for many years, up until I would say around 2014 is when my life kind of started going another direction. Well, not completely, but maybe up another level. I had actually for a short time moved to Hilo, and I actually taught at Waikea Elementary. I think that was in 2014. I taught Waikea Elementary. It was really awesome. It was a huge school. Oh my gosh. I only taught second, third, and fourth, and had like 400 kids. It was like, woo! Yeah. But it was still awesome. You can go YouTube the Waikea Elementary May Day 2014. Whoa, you could see the action that we did.
Lanakila was there.
What was really powerful was to impact that community briefly, but then October 2014 something happened on the Mauna. Yeah, that was when the attempted groundbreaking was going to take place. And well, that's all over YouTube. We can find that. But I guess that's where for myself, all of this opportunity I was blessed to have as a young person, as a young Hawaiian, all of this ike and teachings that I was blessed to receive and to be put into practice, and then to become a teacher and now to be sharing this with my own haumana, with my community. Now, one of the most important places, especially for us in Hamakua, I mean, that's our mauna. It's literally our moku. You know, we're right there. To see another devastating impact, negatively impacting project being proposed to is that sacred place. What else could I do? You know, to how could I possibly? I remember thinking to myself at one point after the groundbreaking, all these things, and it was like everyone's like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?" You know, even like, "Oh, why'd you do that?" And I'm thinking to back myself, "Why the heck did I do that? Why did I go up and stop this whole thing from happening?" Was thinking about it afterwards. I think what was charging through me was, well, one, that my kupuna aren't liars. My kumus are not liars. They told us this place is important. They shared with me stories. They told us the history. They share it. We learned the science of this place, and we know how important it is. And again, with knowledge comes responsibility. So how could I possibly not do anything? How could I? What is it to throw your hands up and say, "Oh shucks," and lose something like that? And then for me, was even more impactful, or I think more of a driving force, was how could I ever look at my students? How could I ever look at my children again? Yeah, after I just shared with them how important, for years and teaching about the importance of Mauna Kea, about the water cycles of the mountain and all these things, and then a machine's gonna go and bulldoze the top, and they're gonna look at their kumu and be like, "Well, why are they doing that if it's so important?" I ain't no liar. So I will stand in the truth that I know is pono, and so I know my students will not feel. I would say, how some people, I hear stories of how older generations, being bombarded that Hawaiian culture was nothing. Everything would just say, no, even waste your time with that. No, learn that. It's a dead culture. It's a dead language. No, I cannot allow that to happen. Yeah, and just finally like putting the foot down and no, not going to happen. We're here, we're alive, and we're going to continue to thrive, and that includes our aina. Because we cannot live, we cannot thrive. Hawaiians, we cannot exist without aina, without Hawaii, without these places that actually their stories and their influence is what made us. Our entire culture is because of these places. So again, that's just from, I can trace that back. That's the foundational teachings from Kanu. That's years of being a teacher and sharing this to my students. I'd say one more powerful thing for me that took place right out of high school, actually before I went to college and went to become a teacher. I was one of 4 youth selected in 2004 to go on the Native Youth Cultural Exchange Program. And it was myself, 3 other young Kanaka, and we had Uncle Calvin Hole was actually our chaperone. And we went for 1 month. We journeyed. We met up with this group. We started off in Hopi, on the Hopi reservation with the Hopi Indians in northern Arizona.
Wow.
And we stayed for a number of weeks there, and and also a group of young Pit River or California natives came down. So it was a band of brothers. There was 15 of us total, and we started our journey in Hopi and learned and like living together, working in the community, sharing and everything. And then we all went to California to the tribe with the tribes up there, and we participated in ceremonies and such. And then we all came down to Hawaii. So every single one of us youth groups or youths, we got to both be a guest as a native person, to be a guest in another in a native relative's home, and also to be a host. And I would say that was super enriching for me. It also helped to galvanize a lot of the things that I've learned as a young Hawaiian, but sometimes kind of taking it for granted. until I actually got to go beyond my own shore and realize, wow, whoa, actually, like these guys have very similar things, very different, but very similar. I could see the connectedness, and I
You
could.
must have been so proud to like feel so pa'a to even be that type of ambassador, to have enough cultural ike and knowledge to go to that point. Yeah. That's
Well,
so
I mean,
amazing. I get chicken skin. What an unreal opportunity.
well, I mean, it was a big deal for. I mean, I wasn't no teacher then. I was just out of high school, and it kind of called us out. That was a big deal too. Some things was like, especially like I would say in Hopi. I mean, Hopi, the Hopi people are, one is like some of the villages that we stayed at, that they live in, are the same villages. They never left their homes. Yeah. Some of these villages, the foundations of their houses are the same houses. They've been carbon dated back, like the village of Oraibi goes back almost 8,000 years, and they are still there. They have not abandoned their homes. They were lucky that the Americans saw their land as kind of junk land and kind of let them be out.
Right.
Even though it's so rich, it's so vai out there. But they are strong people, and their traditions and many things have never been broken. So it was something for me, because we're having to learn, we have to relearn. Okay. We have to acknowledge, as Kanaka, we are having to relearn. We've seriously been broken. Yeah. And we don't sugarcoat it. We've seriously been broken. Yeah. We are pretty much living day to day on a Western world. Yeah. We're in the Western houses. We're eating the Western food. We're using the Western monies, and we're having to in these situations. But now to be in a situation like, in a place like that, to see so much of that unbroken tradition was just, for me, was inspiring of what we can return to, the potential. Yeah. It was also something to witness that they are now dealing with some of the situations that we have gone through. Their language has never been broken, but they're starting to lose a lot of their youth to the distractions of the Western world. And I'm like, no, don't do it. We can tell you what's going to happen. Yeah. And then to go to California, where that's a whole nother story. So for us as Hawaiians, we face hardship, but our people were never hunted down like animals, like the Northern California Indians. The tribes, the people that I work with there, like their stories of like Ishi, like entire tribes, the U.S. cavalry coming down and just literally slaughtering their people.
Go for broke genocide. That's what they was doing. Just
the state of California, even into the 1920s, would actually pay people to go out and kill Indians.
Yeah,
that's the level
it was like $5 profit per person you murdered.
Yeah, and I mean, us as Kanaka, we've never faced that type of genocide.
No.
And so we all had our own stories, and it was very impactful. So I actually returned year after year with these and continue this exchange with these these ohana, and that's been another driving force behind me, that expands the view, that helps me in the work that I do, to realize that us as Hawaiians, we're not alone, and we shouldn't try to isolate ourselves. When we have many other Native peoples who are in very similar battles that we can actually align with and support each other. And we look to each other for that support. Like we saw it on the Mauna. We saw it in many other movements too, where people have reached out. Our people have gone. We stood with them in Standing Rock. We stand with them in many places. They have come here with us, and we continue to empower each other, and therefore we can help to speak out in support of each other. So
how was the youth from the tribes there when they came to Hawaii? How was that? Because they're traveling for the first time over Arewara.
In the first year, I remember too, we had to do special ceremony. They couldn't fly. We had to drive to the shore first. So we had to drive from Arizona all the way up and all the way to the beach in San Francisco, and they had to go and do their prayers at the ocean before we could fly over it.
Wow.
That level of respect and discipline to culture. It was blessed to be in a program that when the elders of that tribe said, our boys cannot go unless this happens, and they said, okay, yep, that's empowering. That was a
Yeah.
native people to say,
Yeah.
oh, well, our curriculum or, our schedule wouldn't permit that. It's like,
Our budget or
yeah,
whatever is
we'll
like,
make
this
it
is
work.
what it takes. This is what we're going to do, instead
Right.
of
To make sure
thinking
that
of all the
always
reasons no
foremost.
can.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So a lot of powerful experiences that I would say I was blessed to have as a young person that just empowers all of my work that I continue to do today. I opened up my own cultural center that was actually a community effort. All those parents and community that kept coming to my youth center, well, the vision kind of came out like, hey, let's just create a cultural center. And we just kind of did it. Total grassroots initiative. We've had to evolve right now because of COVID. So we had like a nice hall and everything, and we had a visitor center component. We shut that down during COVID last year, and I'm actually happy that we are evolving. We actually are partnered with an agricultural organization here in our hometown, and we are launching all these Hawaiian agricultural projects right now. We just planted 40 ulu trees the other week or last month. We just started planting our first 2 kalo beds yesterday, and we have a massive more projects. So that's my Huli Kalima Ilalo program that we're launching, and I'm just always looking for something new to get us pumped up and get our community stronger. So
well, how did you go into then politics? Thinking of politics as another, now that you've grown up and you've come to the age where, what happened to make you go, I think we need to do this also?
Realizing all the work that I'm doing, all this stuff that gets in the way is because of them guys. Or when we're looking like, oh, how come we can't do it? Where's all the support? Oh, well, someone's holding it up. So it's like, oh, we need to get some innovative thinkers in there, because most of the stuff that we know on the grassroots and the community level, we can tell you exactly what we need to do. But we don't have the political will to change these negative things that stand in the way of the community being able to help themselves. Yeah. And in many ways too, we just see I've experienced a lot of irresponsible decisions and choices made in a lot of the different political arenas, and realizing that, something's got to change. We have to change. But I would, for myself too, stepping into that arena, I wouldn't be stepping out of any of my other arenas, because I stand very strong. Like, there is no way that I can do my job over there and just leave my community. Yeah. So it's like, no. So in fact, I still think there should be some process where everybody in those seats needs to be putting in some time, boots on the ground, hands in the dirt, alongside their communities that they represent.
Right.
That's a good point. Kind of like how Congress, Congress, they have, and the legislature, they have to go to their home district every so often. Yeah, should be a lot of that too.
Right.
You're right. That's a good point.
Yeah. So I mean, there's so many different things. I think what a big issue that we tend to see now, I think, is that we're still seeing a lot of old politics that came about during the worst times of Hawaiian history, and that's being perpetuated as the norm. It's like, this is unhealthy, and we've already know it's unhealthy. So why we have to get a fresh minds, fresh thinking in here. And also, as a young person, it is hard to see when many are, but in those positions, who are older in the point that they're not going to be living in the effects of the decisions being made.
Right.
So it's like, no, I will be going, my kids will be in this situations, living in the ramifications of these decisions. So just realizing that in everything that we do, from planting seeds in arenas like that, we have to engage. I think for me, it's never worked the whole, we don't participate, we don't agree with that. It's like, some people are like, I don't do politics. I'm like, politics is doing you. So up to you. You're just gonna take it, or you're gonna engage with it and push back. So it's like, there's no disconnect. So if you have the opportunity, as we all do, we have the opportunity, we have the ability to engage, whether we agree with the systems or not. It's not about agreeing with them, or it's about, I mean, it's konane. You got to take it on. You have to challenge in every arena that you can. I myself, I'm a strong independence advocate. Some people, accuse me otherwise because I am not afraid to engage. Some people say participating in the government is giving into the government. It's like, why do we pick and choose? You're using American money, right? When you go to the store. Yeah. So I mean, why use one part of the system and then actually the part of the position of the system with power? Oh, we're not going to engage in that. But you're already using it anyway. We got to use it under duress. I love that word. That's the word, duress. I got to use it right now, and I'll use it for the benefit of our Aina and our people until we can get that pono, that righteous government back up again. But at the same time, exercise it already. Live that pono way. Don't wait for something to happen. Make it happen. A bit of an actor.
Do you see yourself having that part, like a political something engagement or education happening in your cultural center as well? Because when people think about Hawaiian cultural centers, right? It's the hula, it's the oli, it's this, they don't touch those other aspects of being Hawaiian. We were born into politics in a sense that our whole life is politics. But when we see all of these structures going up, calling themselves cultural centers, etc., one of the things I don't see in a lot of the cultural centers is the political action. We learn it along the year when Prince Jonah Kohio time, Li'uokalani's birthday, now La Ho'iho I'ea, now we're starting to see that, that whole thing going. But do you see your cultural center expanding its education in that arena as well?
We've heavily been involved, and that's one reason why it's hard for me to operate, because I really don't do the grant thing, the typical thing. I would say, oh, you go for this county grant or this, like, yeah, no, because I don't want any of those barados thinking that they can tell me what we can and cannot do. So it is difficult. Our totally grassroots. We have participated in all of that for a number of years while we were open. We were the headquarters of one of the main headquarters for like the Mauna Kea movement, because even the very first that Kukulu Mauna Kea exhibit, of course we did it. What? Because no one else would touch it. Too political. We held the meetings, some of the first meetings for activation and different things. I've heard both sides too, where I've heard practitioners say, no, we're just Hawaiians. This is our culture. We're not going to engage in the politics. And I've heard Hawaiian politicians or people in politics say, this is more important. The chanting and hula isn't that important. I said, you both wrong, because it's one and the same. And so that's the unique thing, is actually what has empowered many Hawaiians today to be active is actually having the stronger foundation and ike of who we are as a people. No government, our kingdom, no laws are written based upon a government. A government doesn't form and then a culture. A culture is the foundation of any society. The culture is what influences the government. The government has to be formed to take care of the people. Yeah. So it is interactive. So, and a lot of the even in my hula and in our chanting and all of that, trust, the political arena is interwoven all the way through. There is no separating the two. Yeah. And that's where sometimes when in a lot of my advocacy work and with the Mauna and stuff, that's how some people would question, like, oh, how does Lanakila in that? Because he doesn't have a law degree or hasn't gone to school for any of that. But yet I can speak to all these things. But my foundation is the oli and the pule, because in that, to understand that is actually our government system, our political ideas, and our understanding our natural resources, and our natural ecology, and our own society. Yeah, it's all interwoven. When we really look into our prayers and our pule, our chants, our hula, it's all in there. That's the blueprint. So we need to have that identity when going into that arena as well. Or else, then are we conforming then to the Western perspective and just trying to play their game with only the foundation of their background? Yeah. So it is interwoven. So for myself and our cultural center, we've always been interwoven. So right now, even in all this planting work that we're doing, as people come and they just learning planting, we are talking about food sustainability. We're talking
Mhm.
about food security. We are talking about the mismanagement of lands and natural resources, and how we and what is wrong in the political arena. That's why are we not sustainable? Why don't
Mhm.
we have more food hubs and more access to certified kitchens for us to be
Right.
able to get ourselves more sustainable? So those languages are that talk is interwoven into the actual hana, so that way we're
Mhm.
not just stuck on the pala pala thinking of, and we're not just in the aina ignoring. It's interwoven, so we speak from a place of experience.
Mhm. My
So
God.
My,
Yeah.
my God,
Mhm.
that's beautiful. It's awesome. So inspiring, really inspiring, Lanakila. And so where do you see this journey taking you? What are your goals?
goodness, well, you know I find it, how would I say, I have several goals. Yeah, I have always kind of looked at myself. I remember a few years, actually, it was some time ago. I actually even held prayers and ceremony in which I released myself from my own personal ambitions, and I just gave myself as to be a servant to my people and my community. And so I have found myself, like, even like from going back to like running up the Mauna to Na'iaupuni to running up the Mauna again to Oha, to all these other things I've been bouncing through. It's because I didn't say I want to go do this. It's because I had kupuna ask me. I've had communities tell me and encourage me, please, I think you would be good for this. So I listen to my community and say, okay, if you feel, and I gauge that with a number, on a wide array of our community, if you feel that what I have to share would be impactful in this place, or that my thinking, my type of thinking would be beneficial here, or if I can help be a representative for you or something in something, hikino, I'll move on that. So right now, my current endeavor is resecuring our community in healthy and safe practices, and helping to restore and revive our communities coming out of this pandemic. So
Mhm.
our agricultural program is a food sustainability initiative and a food security initiative. It's also a community education on healthy eating, active living. Um, And on the other arena, of course, we're watching what happens with Mauna Kea right now, and we
Mhm.
are gauging on how we're going to move on that. Um, but I will say, if anything, right now, and what I've been kind of putting out there through my discussions and sharings is, like I said earlier, of when is the generational trauma going to end? It
Mhm.
ends when we make a conscious decision that I am going to change and I'm going to fix this now, so I don't have to pass this on. I'm going to try and fix what I need to fix for myself. What is that negative trauma that I am carrying and perpetuating? What can I do to stop that? And then what can I be doing to help stop the trauma that's happening outside and around us in our environment? In that,
Right.
the most important thing I think for all of us right now is the activation to allow ourselves to dream and to be creators once again. My big thing, and I've been actually saying this for a long time on the Mauna, the best way to beat them on the Mauna, those who have negative projects or ideas of what they want to do up there, the best thing to beat them is not standing on the road. That was a necessity because we never did enough prior. Yeah, we didn't stand up strong enough before and support those who were in doing that fight. So that's where we had to get to. But that's not kind of like, we don't want to have to trust. I don't want to be on the road. That's Wawakua. We don't belong up there. We only had to
Mhm.
go up there for necessity. Yeah, and
Mhm.
that's that we beat them back. We don't have to be up there. We get out of there. Yeah. But the goal is, my thing is, we can beat them because we have way better understandings and way better ideas and way better knowledge on what it takes to malama that mauna. So we need
Mhm.
to create then, for all these challenges that we are facing in our communities, one of the best ways to fight to beat
Oh,
it is introduce a better idea. Let us be the creators, and we have to create our communities.
That's right.
If not, we're just constantly going to be fighting off other people's ideas. Yeah. Well, then take charge and let's create and not just create the idea, but put it into action. Start making these things happen. Create our vision and let's start moving. So empowering our communities and any ways that we can support the communities to move in the creation of these visions. That's what we have to do. That's where we have to be activated right now and make ourselves relevant again. It's not enough that we have the right to be Hawaiians just because I'm Hawaiian. Okay, it's because Hawaiians are necessary and we are an integral part in a natural Hawaiian ecology. We have to stop seeing ourselves even as Hawaiians and was looking at ourselves through Western perspectives that culture is just this human thing. Hawaiian culture is a way of life as it is for the Eevee bird in the Hawaiian Islands, or the koa tree in the Hawaiian Islands, or the o'opu fish. The native Hawaiian was an integral part of the natural ecology that is Hawaii. That's what makes us necessary. That's what makes us important, is that our way of living was part of help keeping the ecology of these islands healthy. Our existence is directly connected to health of Aina. And in that, I close that is what the whole world needs right now. The whole world is trying to get ourselves back into balance with the natural environments. And that's why in many ways in places you're finding people are starting to turn and finally ask the proper people, the native people of the places, how can we do this? We've done it for a couple thousand years. We got
Well, I think
Couldn't
that's
have
so
said it
true.
better.
That's just the truth. It's where we gotta go, and it's time. And that's like the true essence of self-determination, that it's not always fighting back, but it's really determining what is best, the people making those decisions. Right on, Lanakila. So awesome. Mahalo nui for doing the work that you do and for joining us tonight to share your journey. I know for myself, it helps me to understand those experiences and how they shaped you to who you are. And, it shows, I feel like I really understand your motivation now. And mahalo nui for making that promise, I guess, to yourself or to your people, to really just to serve. And I can really understand and respect that. Mahalo nui.
Mahalo.
Okay, so anything else you wanted to add, Kumu?
No, that's it. I couldn't have said it better. I couldn't have ended the show any better. Chicken skin action. Mahalo.
Chicken skin, for real. Mahalo nui. So mahalo kako for joining us tonight. We hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did. Ahui ho.
Ahui ho.
Ahui ho.